We were wondering this. Steve Garvey is joining us on behalf of Kings Hawaiian to tell you about their ballpark grills at Yankee and Dodger stadiums. And actually, we love that Kings products. We've had those before. They're a friend of the show. So Twitter handle is at Kings Hawaiian as Steve Garvey joins us now. We were wondering this. I think 10-time All-Star. Is that right, Steve?
Won them all.
How many? You won all 10 All-Star games?
Got a record, yep.
How many 10-time All-Stars are not in the Hall of Fame? Aside from you?
Not many, I don't think.
But do you think you should be in?
Yeah.
You do?
I do.
Why aren't you?
I have to ask you that, and I have to ask the guys that, because every time I go on the ballot, now it's been modified to 16 voters. But you got to do your homework. You got to look at my whole career and body of work.
Yes.
And when you do, you say, well, every time I go on a show, oh, you should be in the Hall of Fame. And it just takes the voters to do it. So you look at the consecutive game streak, National League record, 4th all time, 200 seasons, 5 World Series, 10 All-Star games, MVPs in NLCS and season, and also, by the time you add it up, I don't think there are very few guys that have a comparable palette of a career.
Yeah, that's what we were wondering, though. A 10-time All-Star, MVP in the All-Star game a couple of times?
A couple times.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then Gold Glove winner a few times.
4 of those.
4 of those.
To mix in,
Paulie, what kind of postseason stats do you have for Steve Garvey?
They're actually better than his regular season stats. He's a .338 career postseason hitter with 11 home runs, MVP in 84 of the NLCS, MVP in 78 of the NLCS. We all think Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wish you could vote.
Yeah. We could lobby, though, for you. Yes, Fritzy.
But there's certain names that just resonate. You hear someone's name, or growing up, you get their baseball card and you get that extra excitement. I got the Steve Garvey card. And it's like, it's beyond me how it's like not a no-brainer that by now he wouldn't be part of that group in Cooperstown.
I get a chance to speak 40 or 50 times. And I truly love it, motivational speeches and so forth. And half the time I'm introduced as Hall of Famer Steve Garvey. And you want to correct him, but you go, well, just let it go for now, and it has a nice ring to it, maybe someday. But that's every time I do a show, the same question comes up. And next year on the ballot again, and God willing. So.
But do you think, is the voting system correct in how we approach this? I know that you might be biased and say, no, it's not, but are we approaching Hall of Fame voting correctly, in your opinion?
Well, it's from the evolution of all the Hall of Famers voting, and there was a Veterans Committee, and then they modified it, and now it's 16 voters. So when you say lobby, you really have to lobby who the final 16 are, and it's probably 4 members of the press and media, and 4 front office, and 4 or 5 Hall of Fame players, and then it's subjective from there. But like we talked about before, you really have to look at all the things that compile my career. And then it's a pretty unique one. So,
Steve Garvey joining us here. Best player you played against was who?
Pete Rose.
No question?
Well, there's always a question. I mean, everybody has, things they factor in. But day in and day out, competitor. If you were to have a son or daughter and you wanted him to look at one player as to how they played the game, you would point to Pete.
Should he be in the Hall of Fame?
He should.
No question. No problem with it. Why?
Okay. Well, I think that, in this country, and Pete made a mistake, and he said, I think, an addiction to gambling. And he was subjectively caught, and he was suspended and banned for life. And he also paid his dues to society. He did his time, whether it was a halfway house or jail or whatever it is, and restitution. And then I think we should go back into society and get a chance again. And if you're talking about gambling now, and we're talking about opening the gates, then you should look back and say, and that was the one rule when you walked into the clubhouse, was the gambling rule. And now other billboards have been added. But you should look back and at least give them a chance to be on the ballot in the future.
Did you ever hear of anybody else with gambling in baseball?
No.
Nothing.
Not tonight. And Dan, I was pretty focused. I mean, I had my locker room and my locker, and I rarely knew if anybody was taking drugs or if they would be gambling, because I was so focused on 162 games in the playoffs and getting ready and doing my job as a everyday player and leader that I didn't look for it.
But you had steroids in football back in the 70s.
Right.
But it wasn't prevalent. It didn't feel like it was prevalent in Major League Baseball.
No, not until late 80s. Why
is it that did we think that it might not help your swing or it wouldn't help a pitcher?
Well, they used to tell us, and the Dodgers, were always in the forefront of these things. I mean, I actually talked him into the first Nautilus equipment back in the 70s. I mean, we broke the ice with the Nautilus machine, right? Because everything else was light free weights, and the old term was used baseball equipment to get in baseball shape. So that was their philosophy. You don't want to be too bulky. You want to be, lean and flexible and so forth. And then the evolution really of weight training. And I was a football player, and at Michigan State we trained, and I always thought, if you and I are comparable as athletes, but I'm stronger, I'm going to be a better performer in the long run. So with the evolution of the business of sports and the business of the game, you are always going to have participants find ways to cheat.
You talked about football at Michigan State, and then I started to do some research here. And that Michigan State team that you were on, the 1968 team?
66.
66.
As a freshman, that's 67, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were up against Notre Dame. That's the game of the century and ended up 10-10 tie.
Sure.
Duffy Daugherty was Michigan State's head coach. Eric Parsegian coaching at Notre Dame. Right. You went to Michigan State. Did you go there to play baseball or football?
Well, I was originally contacted for baseball, and then they found out that I was a pretty good quarterback out of Tampa Chamberlain High School. So I did my visit. I had about 20 offers. I had Auburn, Florida State, Miami, one for each one, though. They were starting to specialize. So my pitching coach in high school had played for Danny Litweiler, who was the baseball coach at MSU, but had been at Florida State. So I go up from a trip. I go into the old Jennison Fieldhouse with the trophies, and he's showing them. All of a sudden, this leprechaun of a man comes around the corner, and it's Duffy Daugherty, the old Irishman. And it's charming. And Stevie, he called me. He says, "Where'd you play a little football, son?" I said, "I do." He says, "Here at Michigan State, you can play both. And, we got 23,000 co-eds. I guarantee you we're going to get a date." And, he's charming me. And I said, I wasn't doing bad at the time, but I figured I love the odds.
Yeah.
And so I came out, and I had, again, played top-level high school football in Florida, and became, all of a sudden, I was quarterbacking first week, and then they lost a couple defensive backs, and Duffy says, "Garvey, you ever play defense?" I said, "I think you have, son, haven't you?" I said, "Play a little right corner this afternoon." So dummy me, and intercepted a pass, made some tackles, did a little quarterback knowledge, and after the scrimmage, he said, "Split your time." So within a week, I was back to being a cornerback, and that was it for being a quarterback, but I got a chance to play. And we were just talking about it. They played against any notable players, and about the third or fourth week in '67, USC came to East Lansing and to give you a scouting report, and each guy gets about a paragraph. And I'm looking at potential receivers and backs, and I see this guy with initials out of San Francisco City College by the name of Simpson, and he had 3 paragraphs, and they put at the end, by the way, they have an Olympic track team, and instead of lining up 4 and 4 in every play, I lined up 4 and about 12 because they weren't going to beat me. So that day I had 4 or 5 tackles against them, but people say, "Anything memorable?" I said, first quarter, 1st and 2 on our goal, and of course you don't line up in the end zone. Didn't pass much at that time. So they pitched the ball to OJ, and I'm there at the goal line, and I'm ready for him, and I spear him, and great tackle. He drags me into the end zone and puts his arm down and picks me up, and nice tackle. And when I'm speaking, I say, it was as if I got hit by a white Bronco. And you can...
Wow. Oh, wow.
Wow. How could Garvey say something like that?
Yeah, that's not you.
I'm still waiting. I might run for Senate here in 5 or 6 years.
You might get in the Hall of Fame now.
All things. That's right. Well, I'm going for a broad base of constituents in this way.
But I do tell
By the way,
people,
my son's working here in Congress now for Rodney Davis out of Illinois. So he's the one that's getting into politics.
Did you think of being a politician?
At one time, yeah. I was a Reagan Republican, and I used to introduce the president on his campaign stops out west, and knew Nancy pretty well. And that was back in '80 to '88. It was a pretty neat time,
How many celebrities would come out to Dodger games? Who were the big celebrities?
Well, we had the greatest celebrity, game.
Sinatra.
Oh, Sinatra would come out, and Martin, and Jerry Lewis, and I mean it was a who's who. And they would have fun, and we would have fun with them. And
Did you go to Sinatra's house?
I had been there, yeah.
What was that like?
It's, it's like a temple, so to speak, but a compound. And but it was always very nice. A great baseball fan.
Yeah.
And he promised Lasorda that he would sing the national anthem if Lasorda became manager of the Dodgers. So 1977 opening day, and they give Frank a Dodger jacket, hat. He puts it on that jaunty style, and he goes to center field. And it's Lasorda and myself and Bert Hooton, and we're all standing there with our hats over our hearts. And Frank starts out, and just has the women melting. And forgot, I think the third stanza was the shortest national anthem in the history of Major League Baseball. And Bert Hooton, in his dry humor, says, "Who in the heck is that guy?" And Lasorda says, "Well, I'm skipping 2 of your starts for there." So it was funny. It was a different time. I mean, we'd go into Chicago, and Tom had a lot of friends there. And, of course, Jilly had his spot there. And, 70s, 80s, it was fun.
You had a good seat for Reggie Jackson when he hit 3 home runs.
I did.
Right?
I did. I've had a great seat in the house for a lot of things.
What's the most memorable moment you've had, whether you're in the field? Yeah.
Yeah. Hank Aaron's 715. I was there that night. And
Did you congratulate Hank when he got to first?
Well, it's those moments I'm watching. It was a pretty high ball to left field, and I'm watching, and I see it go over, and I see Bill Buckner, my dear friend, climbing the fence. And unfortunately, Tom House had beat him there. And I turn around, and he's just going by. And I thought, shoot. I didn't pre-think this very well.
Would you have congratulated him?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Billy Russell and Davey Lopes were at second base, and they did. And then, of course, the infamous two fans chasing him and so forth. And then you fast forward to Reggie, and he hits his third home run at Yankee Stadium. And I watch him, and Reggie's got that little bit of a jaunt.
Well, he leans.
And he got a lean, right?
Yeah,
that little bit of lean.
Rounded first.
If you don't hit many home runs, you don't have a lean. And back then, you got around the bases quick because the pitcher is, how in the heck could that guy hit a home run? So he looks at me, and I clap him my glove a little bit. And he winks, and he goes by. And, of course, we lose, and, 25, 30 minutes afterwards, it's pretty quiet. And then Dick Young, the great writer,
columnist, New York Daily News,
comes in, and he says, "Were you clapping in your glove?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I've never seen that before." And I said, "Well, there are times in your profession where you've got to recognize greatness. And that was a great performance." And I said, I just wanted him to know that I recognized it and I understood. So fast forward to 1981, and now it's the bottom of the ninth, and we got a 4-run lead. And if you look at the replays, Reggie's at first, and he's talking to me. And what he's saying is, "Garv, it's your turn now." I said, "Thanks." And he patted me on the behind. Next pitch, the ball goes to Kenny Landreau in center field. And it's the culmination. It's that, and it almost freezes because all the days you're playing in the backyard, and you're playing wiffle ball, cork ball, or I used to hit little grapefruits by myself with, broomstick. And for me, it was always Yankees, Dodgers, and Dodgers won most of the time. But finally, you win a world championship for real.
Yeah.
And what do? You run the pitcher's mound. So I run. Steve Yeager gets to Steve Howe, picks him up, and I come flying in, the highest I've ever leaped before. It's a great Sports Illustrated picture. Now, the next thing most people don't know is we come down, he spins Howe out. Howe clocks me with his elbow in the chin. My hat falls down, and if I didn't have this Irish chin, now think of this, I would have been out cold on the pitcher's mound at Yankee Stadium in the highlight of my career. Yeah. But my parents have been from New York, and the old, if you break down on the Long Island Expressway or something, come back in 15 minutes, that car's stripped.
Gone.
It's only a frame. I immediately think, I got to pick up my hat here and get out of here. But if I was not cold, can you see me? Pair of sanitaries, boxers, and that's it, laying on the mound at Yankee Stadium.
By the way, you know what you hit in that series?
4-something.
417. Yeah. Those. See, we it feels like we help or we look at a pitcher and say what they do in the postseason,
right,
not as much as we do a hitter. Yeah. And I'm not sure if maybe we look at pitching being more valuable in the World Series or the playoffs, and those pitchers stand out, whereas
Yeah.
why aren't we shining the spotlight on hitters as well?
And when I speak now, I talk about, remember when mothers used to want their sons to be doctors and lawyers? Well, now they want them to be pitchers. Think about it. You work once a week, paid $150, $160 million.
Yeah.
Concave chest, low handicap. They take their clubs on the road, right? I mean, and us poor guys who go out every day, 162 games in hot weather and humidity and so forth. So,
Did you ever have a bad relationship with a pitcher?
no.
Nobody.
I'll tell you
Did
what
you
happened.
fight anybody?
I'll tell you what did. No, fights are ridiculous.
You never
They're
went to the
wasted.
mound.
No, never went to the
Yeah.
mound. Just think what happens.
Oh,
You end
it's
up
not
with a
good.
dog pile. You
Yeah.
end up with dislocated shoulders and wrists and elbows and hands. Normally, I would find my comparable guy on the other team. Like the last day of 1984, we had 3 fights at Fulton County Stadium between the Padres and the Braves. And after the first one, that was a little pushy,
Skirmish.
little ballet type of stuff.
Yeah.
And the next one starts, and I look at Dale Murphy. He looks at me. We go grab each other, and we dance over to the side. We do the 2-step over the side, and we're looking at him. Go, those guys are really crazy out there.
Yeah.
So the problem is we can't hit Pascual Perez, who hit Alan Wiggins on the first pitch of the game. Remember this? So we have first pitcher can't do it, second pitcher can't do it. Now 7 guys are thrown out because of the fights ensuing. So finally bringing in Greg Lefferts, and he finally hits Pascual Perez. So I know what's going to happen. So I run out to the mound. You can see that. I run out, and I'm like this, my old defensive back stance, my arms out. And it's like the parting of the Red Sea. These guys come, and they go around me. And I'm there like this, right? I'm about to sacrifice my body for my pitcher. And I look around, and Lefferts is sprinting towards the bullpen in left field.
So you're left by yourself.
I want to be a pitcher.
Yeah.
Left by myself.
Who do you get mistaken for?
Oh gosh, Pierce Brosnan sometimes.
Yeah, I could see that.
Are you Superman? Remember the
Christopher Reeve?
Yeah,
Oh.
that sometimes.
Nice.
Um,
I tell these guys the story. I was working at CNN, and I was going to do an interview with you at Shea Stadium. And Shea Stadium was horrible to do interviews because the planes kept going over them, But you said, hold on, you just got done with BP, and you go, hold on. And then you went into the locker room, came out, your hat was off, your hair, you had to go in and comb your hair.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, your hair looked perfect.
Do you tell many people this?
I did. I told my audience.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I had done a Vitalis commercial. That was my first commercial.
Yeah.
So
But you went in and combed your hair.
Hey,
And
I'm representing
I know.
the national pastime.
And you took your hat off.
And you were a young kid.
Yeah,
and I figured
absolutely.
I got to make you look good.
No,
because
no, you made me look bad.
You can make a career out of this.
Who knew back then?
And now look at you.
Who knew that I?
What are you on? 8 or 9 different outlets right now, or
I
what?
don't know. I don't know. We're somewhere. We're
You barter?
We're on a We're.
I'll tell you what, you're going to get King's Hawaiian now
Well, we love this
at the house.
Yeah, we love King's Hawaiian.
Right.
Yeah, the buns are great there. Yeah, absolutely.
So what do all ball players do? They go into marketing and media consulting, and I've got a few clients my advanced age.
And you got Dodger Stadium and Yankee Stadium for.
Yeah, we created the King's Hawaiian Grills,
Yeah.
which we use the rolls, and we do tri-tip and pulled pork, and we've been a little sacrilegious. We put barbecue pulled pork on Dodger dogs, which is a smash hit, right?
Oh, really?
And we do wings, and we've created this epicenter of food. And now, it's a small 30 franchise fraternity, and they heard, wait a minute, Garvey's got this place that's doing great, this King's Hawaiian Grill at Dodger Stadium. Yankees called us, going great in Yankee Stadium, finding a new spot that they're expanding at Fenway, and we're negotiating with Wrigley. So
Oh, wow.
by the time next season comes, I'm pretty sure we'll be in the 4 iconic stadiums. So,
And maybe you'll be in the Hall of Fame.
God willing, voting's next year.
Yeah. How many more years do you have on the ballot?
This expansion era, you could probably keep going until
Oh, there's not a certain number that you.
15 on the initial ballot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, you rotate to the different eras now, which I think, I give the Hall of Fame credit. They're trying to expand the opportunities for players that may have gotten lost in the big numbers,
Yeah.
the 3,000s and things like that. There's so many very good players. And I know I could rattle off a bunch of them right now that could easily match guys in the Hall of Fame now. But if you, and the guys in the Hall of Fame deserve to be in there. It's like anything. But I think the Hall of Fame needs to to expand and maybe even make a couple of determinations on them, maybe pick a player or two each year that has really made a difference in the game of baseball. I mean, I was a bat boy in spring training in 1956 for the Brooklyn Dodgers. My dad was a Greyhound bus driver. Came home the night before and said, "You want to skip school tomorrow?" And I said, "Yeah, what are we doing?" He said, "Well, I've got a charter to pick up the Brooklyn Dodgers tomorrow, take them to St. Pete to play the Yankees in an exhibition game." And he said, "I think it might be a fun day for you and I." And the next day, here I am bat boying for the Dodgers. It was Jackie Robinson's last spring.
Oh, boy.
And Hodges and Reese are talking about the Yankee pitcher and how he's holding the ball for a breaking ball and a fastball and not wasting time, not talking about where they're going to dinner, tonight, but just in case 6 months from then they're facing this pitcher in the World Series and he does this, it'll be a breaking ball, and if he does this, it'll be a fastball. And my dad and two other gentlemen just started the second Little League in Tampa, and I was going to have my first game, and I really didn't know what they were talking about, but I knew I picked up enough to realize they were waiting and learning and not wasting time. Robinson sat on my lap, didn't see me, and literally sat on my lap. And I'm thinking, Monday show and tell, this is going to be the best story they're going to hear first grade at Lois Elementary School. But that day, that night I went home, and Mom had dinner, and I was an only child. I got 7 kids now. It's God's ballot. And she said, "How was your day?" And I kept talking for 35 minutes and went to bed and couldn't go to sleep and kept smelling something. And my dad came in. He said, "I thought you were tired." I said, "Yeah, but Dad, I can't go to sleep." He comes over and he sniffs. He says, "You know that rag on the on-deck circle?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "That was pine tar." He said, "You got pine tar in your hands. You didn't wash your hands good enough again." And then he looked at me as parents do to their children. He said, "You'll probably never forget that smell the rest of your life." And I have it. And to this day, I've been blessed to be part of the national pastime and to be able to do interviews and promote it and talk about it with you guys and do a few other things too. But that's why this game is so special. We've got to be really careful we don't alter it too much.
I think that we should come out with pine tar cologne. What do you think? Steve Garvey's pine tar cologne.
My middle name's Patrick. So
Steve Patrick Garvey cologne.
So I'll get
pine
51%. You'll get 49%.
I can smell it right now.
It's got to be a summer fragrance because
it's great to see you, and
Thanks.
I appreciate
Thanks.
you coming in.
We want everybody to try us at our King's Hawaiian Grills, and you're going to be getting some sampling. And
the website is kingshawaiian.com. Twitter is @KingsHawaiian. The great Steve Garvey. We're back after this on the Dan Patrick Show.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.